Hello friends. So from this lecture onwards, what I will be doing is I will be starting a new topic, that is functions. So before I start functions, let me tell you about the programming paradigm. That is how programming evolved over a period of time. Long back, people used to write in a style which is called as monolithic. That means all the code they write in one place. That means everything they will be writing. If let's say this particular piece of code is required somewhere, so again they will be writing, and in this way they will be writing. So what is the problem with this? The code becomes very bulky, and at the same time, the people who are working on that particular code, so there will only be one person who will be working on this particular code, and he will be developing the code from start to end. So if that fellow somehow leaves the company, let's say, then it will be very difficult for another one to pick up from this particular that if something is added to this code, then how it will be done. So monolithic style is now no more in use. Then comes the modular style of writing. This is also called as procedural style, where we divide the whole task of problem solving into different sections, different modules, and these modules will be called as functions. So the benefit of these functions will be that if say in a uh, in a particular project 5 people are involved, so one will be looking after this particular task, second will be looking after this, third will be looking after this, fourth will be looking after this. So these fellows will be developing individual functions, sub-programs. They will be developing individual subroutine or programs which will be performing certain tasks, and one person then will be assembling all those. So the beauty of this type of programming is if this particular function is required, let's say 10 times, then the name of the function will be called with the appropriate arguments. So this not only reduces the complexity of the code, but at the same time it also makes the program much easier to understand. Then comes object-oriented programming, where the data and the function they have clubbed in one place and that becomes a class. And then people started using the cloning those classes. That is what we call as objects, and that make the task of a programmer very easy. Then the final one is called as component assembly or aspect oriented programming. And here they will be making certain block diagram sort of thing where one can bring this block diagram, then this, then attach. So what is this block diagram? This will be having some function in it. So this makes the task much more easier. So this is the, what can we say, now you will be having n number of software nowadays where this aspect oriented approach is used. So what they will be doing, let's say I want to model a full power plant, so they will be having an icon for let's say turbine, they will be having an icon for let's say boiler also, and they will be connecting them, that means data will be transferred, and then there will be one condenser component also, so this will be bought here, then a pump component will be also there, and in this way they will be clubbing up everything. So what is written inside, that's not at all bothering me, but this particular thing, this symbol is telling me everything, that this is a turbine, this must be requiring this inputs, and in this way everything will be connected. So this is much more easy even for a person who don't know much of the programming. But where we are here right now. Where we are means where we are in this particular course. So what we are trying to understand is what is modular programming. So what is module? What is functions? Functional programming, what is that? So so far whatsoever code we have written in this particular course, they all are in sort of a monolithic way. Now let's say I want to evaluate this particular function. Let's say I want to find out the value of cos theta based on series. So it is 1 minus, then comes x square by 2 factorial, then plus x to the power 4 by 4 factorial, then x to the power 6 by 6 factorial, and so on. So here, if one notice that there is 1 factorial coming, so inside the program we have to write this factorial. So why not to do one thing? Why not to make a function for factorial, and wherever this factorial is required, we will be just asking for that function to come. Let's say here that function will come. I am calling it as fact, and I am passing this to. It will be evaluating and then returning that value at this place. So this will make life much easy for us. So how to define a function? Now there are 4 types of functions. So before I explain you the types, let me explain how a function is defined. Okay, function must be having, so you have already seen so many functions like inbuilt function like printf, scanf, even you have also seen this power function and so on. So the thing which you might have observed here, that every function, let's say printf, this is the case, that is the name of the function and then parentheses, and inside the parentheses you must be passing some arguments. As in mathematics we say y is a function of x, so we pass this x to this function and in turn we get this y. So the name of the function is x. So likewise here also we will be having function name, and then parentheses where we will be passing some arguments, and then the block of this function. Now this function, let's say it is returning some value, so the return type of this function has to be defined. So I'm saying that it is int, it can be char, it can be float, it can be void, and then comes what this function is returning. So in this way, this is the general framework of any function. That means the return type of the function, then the name of the function, then the parenthesis where arguments will be passed, then comes the body of the function, something must be done, and then finally something is returning, coming out of this function. So there are 4 types of function. The first function is no argument, no return. So let's make a function which will do what? Which will simply greet you by saying hi. So let's say this is greeting function, and then as it doesn't require anything, so this will be kept empty. So that means no argument. And then comes the body of the function, and I'll simply say printf hi. That's it. Because this is getting printed, so I don't want anything to be returned. So as this function is returning nothing, so I can simply say void. So let us make this function and see how we can use this. So functions are normally, so remember initial phase, what I taught you that this is the section where we include the header file. Then comes the user defined function. So the one which we will be defining for our task. So here I am defining the first function for you, that is the function which doesn't require any argument and the function which does not return anything. So void, then the name of the function, greeting function, and that's it. Then comes the block of the function. So this function is simply saying printf hi Pankaj. So whenever I call this greeting function, it will say hi Pankaj. So that's it, done. You have developed your first function, that is function which doesn't accept any argument and which doesn't return anything. So in the main, I'll simply say gf, I'll call this function and that's it, done. So if I run this program, this will say, hi Pankaj. So you have developed your first function. Remember, I am repeating it once more. The function always comes, the starting point is the return type of this function. And as I am writing void, that means it doesn't have any return. This function doesn't return, is not returning anything. Then comes the name of the function, then the parentheses. Inside the parentheses, you will be passing the arguments and then the body of the function. Okay. So this function is not taking any argument and this is not returning anything. What does I mean by return? Very soon you will be able to understand this. Let us come to the second function, which will take some argument but will not be returning anything. So let us write a function to add two numbers, but it will only be displaying the result. So let us define this function add, and then the body of this function. As I said that this is not returning anything, so say void. Now comes the argument part. So let's say this function add accept two arguments, two integers, let's say. So you have to define the data type of arguments also. So let's say int a and int b. Okay, now I will be doing what? I will be summing these up, and let's say I am storing the sum in some variable sum. This is not at all necessary, but just to understand. So sum will be a plus b. Okay, then what? Then printf percentage d and then sum. That's it, done. Now you have made one program which accepts the argument but which does not return anything. This void is telling you everything about the return type. The name of the function is add. It is accepting two arguments which are integer, and inside this is adding and then just printing the result. So let us make this function also. So let us make this function, that is add. This will be accepting two arguments a and b, and then the body of the function. Let's say in sum, then sum is equal to a plus b, that is sum assigned a value of a plus b, and then simply printf. Let's make this look somewhat beautiful. So this plus this is equal to this. So here a, then b, and then sum will come. That's it. Done. So this function is a function which is accepting arguments but doesn't have any return type. Doesn't have any return type means this sum variable is local to this function, means the value of this cannot, the output of this function cannot be taken up by another variable for further use or further processing. So if I simply say here, let me use new line also. So if I simply say here add, what to add? Let's say 2 and 4. Okay, and then if I run this, so what will happen? So first it is saying hi Pankaj, this is because of this function, that is gf, which we have called here. Okay, now the second function which I have called is add, and I am passing two arguments to it, 2 and 4. Because this function requires two arguments, that's why I am passing two arguments to it. Let's say I'm only passing one argument. Let's say only two I am giving to it, and let us run it. So it will throw an error saying that too few arguments to functions add. So this function which is add, I am only passing less number of arguments, but in reality this is accepting more, that is two argument, but I have passed one, so that's why it is returning error. It is throwing an error. Okay, now you know two types of functions. The first one is function which does not have any argument as well as does not have any return type. And here in this case, the function, the second function is the one which is accepting argument and which doesn't have any return type. And doesn't have any return type means we cannot use the output, that is the sum, the value of this sum to, or we cannot use this value of this sum in a sense that we cannot pass this value to any another variable for processing. For example, if I want to pass this variable to some integer variable, let's say d, okay, and then run it. So what this is saying, void value not ignored as it's out to be blah blah blah. So that simply means this function is not returning anything. Why are you passing it to another variable? Okay, so let us come to the whiteboard, and now let us see third type of function, that is the function which accepts argument as well as it returns something. So let us make a function which uh, which mm, accept what to make. Let us make one function which again add function, let's say I'm making, which is accepting arguments and as well as it is returning something. So I am making add. So let me change the case from upper to lower. I have changed, and it is accepting two arguments, a and b. This is now returning an integer. So this is the return type of this function. And then let's say int sum, same, everything I'm keeping same. So this sum is equal to a plus b, and then return a, that is this sum. If you don't want to write this much, you can simply say return a plus b. That will also work. Okay, now here you have return. So this function is returning something. Okay, and this is returning what? An integer. What is that? The sum of what? These uh, arguments. So let us do this. So let us make another function. This time it is returning an integer. The name of the function is add. Now this add and this add will be different because this is capital, this is small. This is taking integers a, integer b as argument, and then comes the body. So this is simply returning return. This is returning the sum of a and b. That's it. So this is accepting argument as well as returning. Now I can use the value of this function, the value which this function will return for further processing. So let's remove this part, and now let's define a variable d. Okay, and then I'm assigning this d the value of add, and add what? Let's say 2 and 3. Now if I run this program, this will run successfully, but it is not saying anything because we have not asked this program to do anything further. This is just quietly adding up and returning the value to d. Let us check. Printf d is equal to percentage d comma d, and run it. So now you can see this function is returning a value which is now can be transferred or which has been transferred to d, and this we have printed. So now this variable, the value inside the variable can be further used. Let's say I want to square it. Okay, now run it. This becomes 25 because 3 plus 2 is 5 and 5 into 5 is 25. So this is the third type of function, that is the function which accept argument and as well as return something. Now there is fourth type of function which let's say a function which doesn't accept any argument but which returns. So let's say I'm making a function of subtraction sub which doesn't accept anything. Now you will wonder, if the function is not accepting anything, then how can it return something? So what we'll do is, inside the function itself we will be declaring two integer variables a and b, and we will be saying that printf supply a and b, then scanf at the addresses of a and b, and then here we will be returning this a minus b. So let us make this function. So this so there's so this integer is very much required. The return type is very much required because we are returning here, and here there are no argument. So let us do this. So let's say int, then sub, this is not accepting anything. Inside I'm saying printf, enter a and b, and then scanf, and then %d, comma, at the address of a and at the address of b. But have I declared a and b? No. So let us declare here int a comma b. That's it. Now the function will be returning what? The difference, a minus b. So let us use this. So let's say I'm having x and y, and x is 5 and y is let's say 1, and I am also having this d, and I am supplying this d or this t, the value of the difference of x and y. X and y. What is x? X is 5. What is y? Y is 1. So what will happen? It will return the difference of this. No, sorry, I'm really very sorry. This cannot accept anything. No, this cannot accept anything. I have to supply inside the program. I'm really very sorry. This doesn't accept anything because this function is not having any arguments. So let us run this and see what is the problem. Undefined reference to sum. Oh, it is sub. It's not, it's sub. Okay. Now, the moment this main function runs, what it is saying, enter a and b. From where this is coming? This is coming from here. Enter a and b. Okay. So let's say a is 1, b is 2. What it will do? It will then transfer these values to a and b, and then it will subtract them and it will return this to d, and then that d will be printed. So d is coming as -1. So this is an example where you are passing, you are not passing any argument, but still you are returning something out of a function. So how many functions are there? There are four types of function. The function which doesn't accept any argument and doesn't return anything, function which accept argument but doesn't return anything, function which accept argument as well as return, function which doesn't accept any argument but return. So in this video, till this point only, in the next video or coming videos, we will be making several functions to strengthen up our concept of functions. So thank you very much for watching it.